Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to explore a story that is making headlines across the world. The UK has just struck Russia where it hurts most, and it managed to do so without firing a single shot. This event is not just about politics or international relations. It is about how power works in the modern world, where strategy and influence can often be stronger than weapons and armies. For decades, Russia has relied heavily on its natural resources, particularly oil and gas. These resources have been the backbone of its economy, providing the money needed to fund government programs, sustain its military, and maintain its influence abroad. By targeting this lifeline, the UK and its allies have managed to put serious pressure on Moscow without stepping into direct military confrontation. One of the most effective tools used by the UK has been sanctions. These are restrictions placed on trade, financial transactions, and even the movement of certain individuals. They may sound technical, but the effects are very real. Sanctions make it harder for Russia to sell its energy, harder for its companies to do business abroad, and harder for its wealthy elite to enjoy their fortunes outside of their country. London has always been one of the world's top financial hubs. For years, Russian billionaires invested their money in luxury homes, businesses, and assets in the UK. This was not just about wealth. It also provided them with influence, status, and security. But in recent years, the UK has tightened the rules. Assets have been frozen, properties investigated, and financial networks blocked. For Russian oligarchs, London has become far less welcoming. This has created a ripple effect. Those close to the Kremlin are suddenly finding it difficult to live the lifestyles they once enjoyed. Their yachts have been seized, their bank accounts frozen, and their freedom to travel limited. For a system that depends on loyalty from the wealthy elite, this is a serious blow. It forces them to question their position and creates tension inside Russia's power structure. Energy is another major battleground. Europe once depended heavily on Russian gas to power industries and heat homes. But with the UK leading the push to reduce this reliance, Russia has lost one of its most powerful tools of influence. New trade routes are being built, alternative energy sources developed, and partnerships formed to make sure Moscow can no longer use energy as a weapon. Beyond energy and finance, the UK has also played a role in limiting Russia's access to technology. Restrictions on advanced machinery, software, and microchips may not sound dramatic, but in a world where technology drives both economies and militaries, these restrictions can slow down Russia's progress. They make it harder to modernize industries and harder to compete globally. What makes this strategy powerful is that it does not involve firing missiles or deploying troops. Instead, it works by applying pressure in ways that weaken Russia's foundations. The economy struggles, businesses suffer, and ordinary citizens feel the impact through rising prices and fewer opportunities. Even though the government tries to hide these problems, people notice them in their everyday lives. This type of pressure has another effect too. It shows that Russia is not untouchable. For years, Moscow projected an image of strength and resilience. But when sanctions bite, when allies stand united, and when resources lose their value, that image begins to crack. It sends a signal not only to Russia, but to the rest of the world that aggression can be answered without war. Some critics argue that sanctions alone may not be enough. They point out that Russia can find new markets, especially in Asia, and that its people are used to hardship. This is true to an extent, but the terms of trade are far less favorable, and the costs of shifting markets are high. Over time, this creates a drain on resources that is difficult to recover from. The UK's role in all this shows how a country does not need to be the largest military power to have influence. By using financial systems, diplomacy, and intelligence, it has managed to strike a powerful blow. It is a reminder that in today's world, soft power and economic pressure can be just as effective as military force. This strategy also offers lessons beyond geopolitics. It demonstrates that strength can come from patience, resilience, and smart decision-making. You do not always need to fight directly to overcome a challenge. Sometimes the smarter move is to target the foundations of a problem, cut off its support, and allow it to weaken over time. For Russia, the consequences of this strike will be felt for years. Economic pressure does not vanish quickly. It slows investment, drives talent abroad, and creates uncertainty. It makes it harder to sustain long-term strategies and forces constant adaptation. For ordinary citizens, it means higher prices, fewer opportunities, and a shrinking connection to the outside world. At the same time, the UK faces challenges of its own. Energy prices have risen, global markets have become volatile, and businesses are adjusting to new realities. But the calculation is clear. Short-term sacrifice is worth the long-term goal of reducing the threat from an aggressive rival. Many people in Britain support this view, especially after incidents like chemical attacks on British soil and cyber attacks traced back to Russia. The broader message is that conflicts in the 21st century are not only fought on battlefields, they are fought in banks, in trade agreements, in technology markets, and in the minds of people. The UK's strike on Russia is an example of this new kind of conflict. It is less visible but no less impactful. This event also proves the power of unity. The UK's actions are most effective because they are supported by allies. The United States, the European Union, Canada, and others have all taken similar steps. Together, this creates a network of resistance that is much harder for Russia to overcome. Dividing opponents is one of Moscow's favorite tactics, but in this case, unity has held strong. So when we say the UK has struck Russia where it hurts most without firing a shot, we mean that it has targeted the very things that keep Russia powerful. Its wealth, its energy, and its image have all been challenged. The blow is not immediate, but it is deep and lasting. It shows how much the world has changed and how much can be achieved without resorting to war. For all of us, there is a lesson here. Sometimes the best way to win is not by fighting harder, but by fighting smarter. Sometimes you don't need to meet force with force, but with strategy, patience, and resilience. That is what makes this story not only about politics, but also about motivation. It reminds us that even the strongest opponents have weaknesses, and with the right approach, they can be overcome. In the end, this story is about more than just the UK and Russia. It is about how the modern world works and how power can be challenged in new ways. It is about standing firm, working with others, and never underestimating the impact of smart, calculated moves. And it is about reminding ourselves that strength comes in many forms. That is why this moment matters so much. It is a turning point, a demonstration of how much can be done without weapons. And it is a reminder for each of us that no matter the challenge we face, with the right mindset and the right strategy, we too can strike where it matters most.